All right guys, check this out. Maxpeedingrods MXR4000GT dual fuel inverter gas generator. Right from the app. Starting it up. That's freaking awesome. And it'll run on regular gas or propane with the flick of a switch. And what's awesome about this Maxpeedingrods inverter generator is that you can hook up an additional fuel tank to it with this extended runtime fuel pump from Maxpeedingrods, and you can run this thing for a very, very long time. This small tank right here will hold 6 gallons. Now you will have to purchase this individually. You can pick one up from Vever. I'll leave a link to it down below on Amazon, but it has quick connects here to quick connect this hose here to attach to the extended runtime fuel pump. Very easy to connect and disconnect. You have your primer ball here to prime it up, and then you power this either with a cigarette lighter port, which I have here. This is the IceGo power bank that actually runs one of my 12-volt portable coolers, or you can use this cable right here to connect it to any 12-volt DC battery. So 2 different ways to power this thing. And what's amazing about that is this thing stays super lightweight, not having a huge gas tank on it. My other 3,000 watt generator is huge. You need 2 people to pick it up, and it's really hard to transport, really hard to move around. It has wheels on it, and it's just not as maneuverable as this. So this is gonna be a game changer for me, being small, portable, lightweight, taking it on camping trips and things like that. It's gonna be awesome. And what's awesome about this thing is it has Bluetooth connectivity. You could start this thing up with your phone through an app, through Bluetooth, and monitor how it's performing. And it also has an electric start feature right here. Or a pull start feature here. So that's 3 different ways you could start this generator up, and it can be run on propane or gasoline, which is amazing. So this inverter generator here will run at 3,200 watts with gasoline, 4,000 peak, and 3,000 running watts on propane, or 3,600 watts peak. So you do get a little bit more max power out of it using gasoline over propane, but I love the fact that this is dual fuel, because sometimes if the power's out, it's gonna be hard for you to find gasoline at gas stations, and most people have gas grills at home, so you already have a propane tank in a worst case scenario that you can use for backup. And not to mention, you could store propane indefinitely without it going bad. Gas you can't. If I wasn't reviewing this, I probably wouldn't even have put gasoline in it, and probably would have just kept it fresh for an emergency and only ran it off the propane. And you do get a propane line with the generator that connects right here with this port. And then for the output on this, you have a USB-A and a USB-C here on the front. You have an L530R receptacle that'll output up to 30 amps, and it does have a floating neutral. And you also have a 120 volt AC 20 amp plug here that also has a floating neutral. And I believe the adapter that they give you, which is an L530 to a TTR, that bonds your neutral, which will be good for an RV. They also give you an L530P if you need to make your own extension cord for the 30 amp plug here. So really awesome that they give you these 2 adapters with it. Oh, and they give you a regular plug adapter. So you get 3 adapters here. You can make any plug you need to plug into this generator. You get a spark plug wrench, screwdriver, and I did change the oil dipstick and put a magnetic tip one in. And then you get an oil fill tube. You just take your dipstick out, screw that in there, and then you could fill your oil up with this, or use this to drain your oil. And this thing, it does come empty, so when you get it, you will have to put oil in it. And it uses 15.36 ounces of oil. I used 10W30 oil, just put regular oil in, not synthetic, for the first run. And after about a half hour to 45 minutes, I drained it out and then refilled it to get any metal shavings or anything like that from the first wear in out of the engine. So I do have some fresh oil in there now. And then the next time I change it, I'll probably change it to synthetic. But whenever you change this oil, it says that you take the side panel off and tilt it over to dump it. One thing I noticed that I didn't quite like is that the oil fill tube is down just a little bit further than the plastic on the unit. So I had to cut a water bottle and shove it in there and have my son hold it as I tipped the unit over to get the oil out, so that the oil didn't go down in the bottom of the case. That would have been nice if they had a little spout on there, or a little angled tray in the plastic for the oil to come out whenever you changed your oil, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. You could actually also screw this piece in that they give you, and then when you dump your oil out, the oil would come out of here and not make a mess. Then up here on the front, you have your fuel source, so you could switch it from gas to propane, and you can actually switch that while it's running. So if you find it hard to start on propane, they recommend starting it up on gas first and then switching over to propane once it's running. So that's pretty neat as well. And I also like how this has a digital display on the front. It will tell you your hours, your runtime, tells you how much power you're outputting. Over here, you have a power display bar that tells you what percentage of power you're outputting in 25% increments. And then over here, it shows you your fuel level in 25% increments as well. So pretty cool. It has has a fuel gauge. It has a light on the front here, nice LED light that lights up. Now this will work when the generator is not running, but it will time out after so many seconds. And then once this whole display times out, if this unit's not running, you can't turn this back on unless you tap this start button. See, it just timed out, so it will not work. However, if you need some light and the generator's not running, you just tap that once and then you can turn your light back on. But it will stay on indefinitely when the generator is running if you want it to. But I love how lightweight this unit is. It's just over 52 pounds. Very, very easy to carry around and transport. And it comes with a pair of parallel cables to connect this unit right here to another unit. I believe there might be some kind of parallel box that goes in between them still, but they do give you a pair of cables. And then you get a nice cover to cover the unit, so if you have it stored in your garage, it'll keep the dust off there and keep it looking like new. And for the engine size, this has a 145cc motor that's supposed to run at about 4,850 RPMs. But let me show you why I love this thing. So I'm gonna open up the app here, and then right down here, I'm gonna hit the start button. And it just started up, and listen how quiet that is. I forgot to turn the fuel on. Forgot to turn the fuel on and it still started up. So listen how quiet that is, super quiet, and that's not on eco mode. You can turn it on eco mode in the app and the volume goes way down, and gonna be super easy on fuel when you're in eco mode. It'll ramp up and ramp down as needed. The more power that you draw, the louder the motor will get. But you can see here in the app, it shows you your fuel, your voltage, frequency, working hours, the state, whether it's working or turned off. You can change eco mode, regular mode, start it up, and it shows you your power output. And it also shows you how many hours of runtime are on the motor itself. Now, one thing to know is there is 2 on positions on here, and there's nothing in the manual that says what the second on position is. I reached out to them and asked them what it was for, and they said it didn't matter which one you were on, they were both the same. So as long as that fuel is on to one of the 2 on positions, it should run flawlessly. Don't know why there's 2. Now, to set up this extended runtime fuel pump, what you need to do is take the fuel cap out of there and take the screen out, and you'll have to pop that little wire off to get the thing that holds the fuel cap in out of there. Then if you get the kit that has 2 different rings, which I recommend because the other ring actually works with my other generator, you have a little bit more expandability if you get the kit with both of these rings. You put the ring on that matches this generator, screw it down in there, and there's a little float in here. Once that fuel level gets down, this pump kicks on and fuel shoots out of here to keep this generator filled up. And this comes with 2 ways to power it. You can either connect it to a 12-volt battery with this cable, or a cigarette lighter output with this cable, which is what I'm gonna do. So just connect that up there and then plug it into any 12-volt cigarette lighter port. And then connect this to your fuel tank. You'll get this hose here, but when you connect this hose up, make sure your arrows are going the correct way. This one's gonna go to the gas generator, and then you're gonna have your arrow here coming from your fuel tank. You're gonna wanna vent your fuel tank, and then you're ready to run. And that's gonna be awesome if your power's out and it's nighttime and you wanna continue to run all night long on this small generator. You'll be able to do that easily. All right, so let's try this fuel pump out. I got the tank vented here. I'm gonna primer it up. It looks like there's a little sight window here on top. All right, so I think I got it primed up. I'm gonna hit the on button and see if it fills it up and stops, hopefully, or we're gonna have a mess. So there we go. Once I turned the pump on, I hit the primer ball. It primed up real quick and it's filling the generator up with fuel right now. Pretty nice. That's nice and quiet. So we're gonna see if it stops automatically, which it should once it gets to about that gallon mark. And one thing you should do if you can is you're gonna wanna use ethanol-free fuel, or recreational fuel as they call it. It's about $1 more a gallon in my area, but that's the only thing I like to run in my small generators, in my small lawnmowers towards the end of the year, and things that are gonna sit for a while. I do still treat them with fuel stabilizer. I use the marine style because it's a little bit more potent. I'll leave a link down in the description for that as well, just to keep your fuel condition good and keep your equipment running for a long time. And it just quit. So the tank should be full. I'm gonna go ahead and unhook that. We're gonna take that off there, see how full it keeps the tank. Then we're gonna connect this thing up to a power station, a huge one, let it run and see how much charge we can get from this inverter gas generator into a solar generator. All right, guys, so I took the fuel pump out of there and I tried to power it back on and tried to get the fuel out of the hose, and it was about to overflow just from the fuel that was in that hose. So do not do that, be cautious, it will overflow, but it does get it pretty full with just that pump. All right, guys, so I have the generator sitting up there. It's running on eco mode right now, and you can see that you can hear me perfectly. That thing is not super loud at all, which is really nice. Now there is no load on it, but let's ramp it up to regular mode here. So this is gonna be full speed, and it's still fairly quiet. Really, really quiet. But we're gonna put a load on there and see how much louder it gets and see how quiet it is. And that's probably about, I'd say about 20 feet away from me right now, somewhere around there. So let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let me know if you think it's pretty quiet. Can you still hear me good with it running at full speed? But I love that feature that you can control it right from your phone. Let me go ahead and turn it back on eco mode. There we go, back to eco mode, that easy. I love that Bluetooth app, and it's been working actually flawlessly. I've been using this thing now for a few days, and it's been running flawlessly with the Bluetooth app. I did see somewhere where somebody said that they didn't like that they had to be connected through the internet for the app to work, but I put my phone on airplane mode and was still able to connect up with Bluetooth, no problem. So not sure what they were talking about. I seen that in one of the comments or reviews somewhere, maybe Amazon or something, but it's working flawlessly. Now I do want to mention that Maxpeedingrods did send me this generator for testing and review, but as always, we're going to put it through its paces, show you how it performs and what to know if you were considering purchasing one. And if you do considering purchasing one, by the time the end of this video is done, if you feel like this gas generator is right for you, then please check out the links that I put down below. It will be an affiliate link, and I will receive a small commission if you use that link, but it's what helps support this channel and helps me creating these videos for all of you. So thank you all for the support. Hope you find it interesting, and if you do, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys around on the next video. All right guys, so right now I have it outputting just over 1500 watts, and that's how loud it sounds at 1500. Now, if you're outputting anything over like 1400 watts, you should just probably take it off eco mode because it's not gonna make much difference. Right now, it is not on eco mode. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on eco mode at 1500 watts of output. And you can hear there's really no difference in motor noise. I'm gonna lower that down to 1400 watts of output. And I have this connected to my Anker Solex F3800, so I'm able to adjust it in 100 watt increments of how much load I have on that generator. So now it's outputting right around 1300 and, oh, actually I went down to 1300. Let me take that back up to 1400. So there's 1400 watts, not on eco mode. Now I'm gonna turn it on eco mode, and you'll hear a slight decrease in engine sound. So if you're still at 1400, you still might save a little bit of energy by having it on eco mode, but here we go. Actually, this is not on eco mode right here. I still had eco mode on. So now this is 1400 watts right here without eco mode. Now I'm gonna turn on eco mode. And you can hear how the motor quieted down just a bit. Let me bump it down a little bit more, 1300 watts. Now this is not on eco mode, and that is eco mode, so you can hear the motor die down even more. So like I said, anything under about 1400 watts, you will see a little bit of a difference when you have it in eco mode. But if you're gonna have huge fluctuations in power draw, say you're running a power saw or some high powered devices, you're not gonna wanna have it set to eco mode. So just keep that eco mode turned off if you're running anything that's pulling over like 1500 watts. You can only go up to 1800 watts on charging here, so let's crank it up to 1800. Now this is the max that my solar generator will input through the AC on the side. So if I was charging my solar generator with this through the regular input port on the Anker, then this is the max that unit's gonna run at. That's about what it would sound like. I'm running this portable refrigerator and charging some batteries up, so I do have some wattage coming out of the unit, but I have 1873 watts coming in, between about 100 watts in solar and the rest from that gas generator, and I have 96 watts going out currently. But this is inside the house with the door shut, 1800 watts, and I can barely hear it, and it's about 20 feet away from my house. This is going to be amazing for a day unlike today. Today the sun's out, I could charge from solar if I wanted to, but on a dreary, cloudy day, there's no way to charge this thing up if your power was out. So that's what makes a gas generator, in addition to one of these, amazing. And if you're on a budget, one of those is definitely the way to go. That's about 900 bucks. If you were to have one of these charging from solar, now grant you, I love this unit, but this is about 10 grand sitting here. That's definitely a more affordable option, but just keep in mind that'll only output 120 volts, not 240. All right, guys, so we've been running for just over 2 hours on that generator. It's been running non-stop, 1800 watts of output. Let's see how much charge we got. Started at 53% on my solar generator. It's now at 83%, so we gained 30% of power into that unit, and we're at 55% fuel. And one thing I noticed is the fuel gauge on there reads in 25% increments, but in the app it actually reads in 5% increments. So right now we're at 55%. The next level will be right at 50. So just over 2 hours and almost used 50% of gas. Oh, I think I just hit the stop button and then start again maybe. I don't know. It just sounded funny, but that was when I tapped that. I think I accidentally almost shut it off. So let's go ahead and lower this wattage down, give this generator a little bit of a break. Not that it needs it. But so far, running flawlessly. Still very quiet. A little louder on this end. All right, I just bumped it down to 800 watts. Now the fuel tank on this is 1.1 gallon, and it's rated to run 7 hours at 25% load, which should be around 800 watts on gas because it's 3200 running watts on gas. So on this mode right here, running 800 watts, that's about what it will sound like. We're gonna back up a little bit. Super quiet though, guys. I'm about 20 feet away right now. Really quiet. I don't have a decibel meter, but I can tell you guys it's definitely pretty quiet. Now I'm going to put it on eco mode. And actually that's about what it will be sounding like if you're running at quarter load, 800 watts, and on eco mode. So it should run for 7 hours on this mode. And like I said, I was outputting 1800 watts steady for 2 hours. And I'm down to about 55% of fuel, so that's pretty good in my opinion. That's going to be really awesome for charging up power stations on really dreary days when I need to if the power goes out. Or I can connect this into my home through my generator input port here and run for at least 7 hours on a tank of fuel, because on average my house draws around 600 to 700 watts, sometimes a little bit less than that if I shut off my air conditioners, hot water tank, things like that, which you will have to do because that only outputs 120 volts. So you can use it to run your house. You just have to shut off all your 240 volt appliances. But here we are coming up on it here, and super quiet. Didn't even hear it when I was around the other side of my house. But really good performance so far. All right, now one thing I noticed is the fuel gauge is jumping from 40 to 55% now for some reason. So I'm not sure why, because it was reading in 5% increments. Now it's looking like it's jumping down almost 15%. Not sure why it's doing that, but I would say it's probably somewhere around 50% currently. And like I said, it's been running for 2 hours and 13 minutes, and on my timer 2 hours and 6 minutes, basically pumping out around 1800 watts. All right, so now we have a bunch of stuff hooked up. Let's see if we can max this thing out. Right now I'm charging that solar generator inside at 272 watts. Let's turn on this induction cooktop on max sear. That bumped it up to 1100 watts there. Running it no problem. I'm going to take it off of eco mode. And there's a little switch there that lets you take it off eco mode or to reset it if you were to pop a breaker, overload it, things like that. So we're up to 1107 watts now. I'm going to turn on this heater, which is 400 watts. So we're at about 1622. So let me bump my solar generator up and see if we can get it close to the 3200 watts that they rate it for. So we're at 2952 watts. Let's see how much we're getting into the anchor. It says we're getting 1740 watts into that. I have the induction cooktop going. And that small heater, we're at 2976 watts. And you can see it's at 75% output it shows. down to about 30% fuel. I think something's going on with the fuel gauge though on the app, because now it's showing 30%. Not that long ago it was showing between 40 to 55. So no problem putting out 3,000 watts. We're gonna let this continue to run for a few minutes and then try to bump it up a little bit to see if we can hit 3,200 watts. See how the water's doing. Not boiling yet. It's starting to bubble a little bit there on the bottom. Alright, here we go. 2,100, 2,300, 2,700, 26, 2,904, still outputting 121 volts. There we go, 3,100, right around 3,100. That's with the blow dryer on high. Oh wait, there we go, I can go a little higher. So the voltage is starting to drop a little bit now. We're down to 112 volts. Just over 3,000 watts, 31, almost 3,050 watts. The voltage dropped down to 113 volts. Let me lower the blow dryer back down a little bit, and the voltage went back up. Shut that off, and it looks like our water might be boiling. Oh yeah, that boiled quick. Let me shut that off. Alright, so there you have it. I never actually hit the overload limit on there. It just started lowering the voltage down. I noticed once you start getting past like 3,000, 3,100 watts, the voltage started to come down a little bit. So I'm probably going to try to keep the wattage lower than 3,000 watts coming out of here so that the voltage doesn't drop down. Let's crank this thing up some more and see if we can hit the overload. Just hit the overload. The overload protection light came on the app, and I believe it was right around 3,000 watts there putting out power, but like I said, it must have lowered the voltage down, and it reset no problem, just like it should. Okay, now one thing I noticed about running on propane is if you turn your propane tank on while you're running on gas and you have the switch to gas, it starts to run really bad, so you can't do that. So right now, like I said, we're on regular gas running. The switch is switched to gas. Now watch when I turn the propane tank on, even though I don't switch this button. It starts to run like crap. Barely runs. But if you switch this to propane, now it's running on propane. So that's awesome. Now let me turn off the fuel switch over here, and it should continue to run on the propane. Pretty awesome that you can switch back and forth like that on the fly if needed. And propane's going to burn a lot cleaner. You're not going to get nowhere near as many fumes when you're running off of propane. So now let's switch it back over to gas. Turn the fuel on. Turn the propane off. Switch the switch back over to gas. It's as easy as that. Alright everyone, so there's how the Maxpeedingrods MXR4000GT dual fuel generator works. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments, how you thought it performed. I thought it performed excellent, and if you guys are interested in picking one of these up, I'll leave an affiliate link, like I said in the beginning of the video, down in the description. Please use that link if you want to help support the channel, and consider subscribing if you like this content, and I will see all of you around on the next one. Thanks for watching everyone.